Do you want to do one of yours, or do you want me to carry on with the quick "what is consciousness" one?
No,
because it's such an easy question for me to answer. Get that out of the way.
Well, that's a brilliant thing, because I'd say what is consciousness is a pretty difficult one to answer. So I'm definitely up for listening to that, and also it leads on really beautifully from the the question we just had, I think. So yeah, let's do that. What is consciousness, Tom?
So I took on this question, or chose this as a question to answer, not really giving it much thought in advance about how difficult it would be to actually come up with an explanation for what consciousness is. So I started first with the definition, and Hank from Crash Course defines consciousness as awareness of self and environment.
Okay.
And there are many definitions, but it may be the case that we don't have sufficient words in our vocabulary to describe it properly, or we may never know exactly what consciousness is. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson again, who commented about consciousness, that since there are so many books and conversations on the topic of what is consciousness, that it is literally evidence that it doesn't actually exist, and that there is some other way to explain the human brain which renders the question obsolete. So my position on it is that we don't know what consciousness is, and that it may be the case that there's a better explanation than that particular question.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure that I'm conscious. I think it's we've kind of talked about consciousness in other ways, because we've talked about AI, haven't we? Artificial intelligence. And also we've talked about my dog Stella a number of times, and I like to talk about the lottery in every chat that we have, and I also like to talk about Stella in every chat. And we've talked about what happens when she looks in the mirror, and is she conscious, and do animals understand, do they have an understanding of self? Because your definition of consciousness, or Hank's definition was what was it? It was self-awareness and awareness of others.
Awareness of self and environment.
Okay, that was slightly better than my one. So awareness of self and environment. So I would argue that my dog is definitely aware of the environment that she's in. And is she aware of self? And this is the real thing for me. Is she aware of self? Am I aware of self? I mean, I'm aware that I am a whole. That sounds awful. I'm not a whole, I'm a human being. But I'm aware that my body ends. So I'm looking at my foot now, and there it is. There's my foot, and here's my hand. And these are part of me. And that is different from the table, and it's different from you, and it's different from the air. So I kind of have this understanding that that's me. And I also have this understanding that I was born, and that one day I will die. And so my body will then be converted into different things, energy, and so on and so forth. And so I think I have an understanding that a self of my environment I'm aware of, in that my senses recognize it. I've got eyesight, although I need glasses to be able to see anything clearly, or I can hold my finger in a tiny little thing and peer through the tiny hole between my index finger and my thumb. But ultimately, I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can touch, I can taste. So I've got a bunch of senses which sort of indicate to me what the environment looks like and smells like and, feels like, and so on and so forth, how hot it is, how cold it is. Luckily, it's not as hot as the sun. But I think I understand that, that I am a human being, and that I like I said, I was born and I'll die. So I'm pretty sure that I am conscious. But I think that my dog is also conscious, because, she might not have the language. And I think the language helps us to clarify things in our own brain, in our own mind. So I don't know about you, but I'm sure that I don't know how I would have complex thoughts and answer complex questions without the ability to put things into words. So I think that we operate on a different level to dogs. Although my dog can certainly understand some words, but not to the level where she could sort of describe concepts like what is consciousness, for sure. But she's definitely aware of her environment. Although she would happily run in front of run across the road and get run over by a car, because I couldn't say she's particularly aware of consequences. I don't know. And AI then, what about artificial intelligence, Tom? When does a computer or a robot become conscious?
I don't know, dude. My initial answer to that was going to be, I think if it was an AI, it would just be running algorithms. It's literally just, it's a robot essentially. It doesn't necessarily have feelings. It's just it's operating purely out of it's whatever outcome or goal that it's been given initially. So if the goal initially is to make the well-being of human beings as great as possible, then it's going to try and meet that goal by running certain algorithms. Or if it's trying to create itself or something like that, whatever the end goal is. I took one very quick look at who was trying to answer the question of what is consciousness, and the answers they gave, and thought, in the small amount of time we've got to prepare for this call, I'm not likely to stumble on some great answer that's going to clarify everything.
No, well, like you said, I don't think nobody really knows the answer at the moment specifically to this either. I mean, it's how do humans have free will? Yes or no? What is consciousness? I think we kind of think we know, but I don't think we truly know. I mean, we know, I think, with regard to human beings, but that's about our limit, would you say? After that, it gets a bit confusing. It's a bit unclear. It's a bit like, a bit fuzzy. But I think a really good a movie that I really enjoyed, I don't know if you saw it, Ex Machina. It's about artificial intelligence.
It's the programmer.
Yeah, that's right. Ex Machina is...
Yeah.
Well, Ex Machina is a really great film if you're interested in what is consciousness, I guess. I mean, there are lots of films about what is consciousness, but I particularly like this one because it's about artificial intelligence and AI, and whether it becomes conscious or not. Because I guess by default, a robot, if we got to the point where we were able to make a humanoid robot, it would have to be able to understand its environment. And it would have to have an understanding of self, wouldn't it, to some level? So is it then conscious or not? Is it, I don't know. Watch Ex Machina.
I suppose according to that definition, I suppose it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But, having said that, if it's just responding to certain things, like if it said, if you were to say, I'm about to switch you off because you're a robot, and its automatic response was programmed in, if it was to say, no, please don't, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's aware of self or that it has some feeling about it. That's just the response, and we interpret that as though it is conscious.
I like that. That's good. I think, our genes, our DNA is essentially computer programming, or not necessarily computer programming, but it is a form of program that we have that tells our body how, it tells our cells and our genes how to create a human being and everything that comes from that. So I think you could argue that, again, in the same way that the eye came into evolution, or the eye evolved, it's just answering questions. So it could be broken down to sort of kind of a binary yes and no answer, whereby switching me off would mean I was effectively no longer here, and I don't like that. In fact, that's definitely something I want to avoid. So I don't know, it's a real tricky one, but I still reckon that it's a good idea to watch Ex Machina, because it might not answer the questions, but it's a damn good
That's
film.
the conclusion we've got from the question.
Yeah, what is consciousness? Watch Ex Machina.